Dr. Nitya, Dr. Sanmuraj. Good morning to all of you. It's a great honor and privilege for me to associate with the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering for this Sttp on empowering the faculty members in terms of ethics, moral values. It's a great opportunity for the faculty fraternity to get the experience of the seniors, mentors. We must be guided, we must have a support and guidance from senior academicians and role models. In this regard, we have invited and requested Professor Dr.R.Ganesan, former Director and Dean of TNAU, to share his views and findings and experience as a mentor role model for many faculty members, researchers, and administrators in India. So as I said, he molded many youth and faculty members, researchers, not only in agricultural related areas. He created many administrative officials across India. At this juncture, on behalf of Dr.NGPIT Institute of Technology, Management, KMCH group of institutions, I warmly and respectfully welcome Professor Dr.R.Ganesan for this wonderful session. Attitude decides the attitude. Attitude decides the altitude. It's a very wonderful topic. So once again, on behalf of the NGPIT team, I welcome Professor Dr.R.Ganesan for this August gathering, and I request the coordinators to proceed further. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I feel glad to introduce this session eminent speaker, Dr.R.Ganesan. Welcome, sir. Former Dean, Gandhigam Rural University, Gandhigam, Tamilnadu, and former Dean, Agricultural College and Research Institute, Tamilnadu. Having versatile experience spanning over 35 years of his professional service and contributed to the specialized areas of agriculture, rural development, technology transfer, human resource development, Agri business development, and others. He visited various countries such as UK, Australia, and USA and established professional linkages. He had undergone the FAO sponsored training, Advances in Agricultural Extension in the University of Reading, UK during 1998. As Director, Agri Business Development, Tamilnadu Agricultural University, Coimbatore, he pioneered the initiative of establishing the business planning and development unit with the funding support of NAIT, collaborating with ICR, ISIT, Hyderabad during 2009-10, and instrumental in getting the national award for the best agri business incubator. To testimony his research initiatives, as principal investigator, he executed the externally funded research scheme such as AICP on scheduled task area research, LRAM, collaborating with IIT Madras, farmer participatory operational research under NADP, and business planning and development unit under NAIT. Richly contributing to the literature wealth, he has published 5 books and more than 175 articles in the leading research and popular journals. He is the awardee of various organizations of national and international review. He is an expert member in various selection committees for UPSC, ICR, ISAT, ASRB, TNPSC, and few more. By now, I would like to hand over the session to you, sir. You can proceed.
I'm going to check the Zoom. Zoom.
Screen put. This out of.
ஸ்லைடு பார்த்து பேசும்போது மேல பேசுற மாதிரி இருக்கக்கூடாது.
சரி எடுக்கட்டும், நான் 8க்கு 8
அந்த சின்ன வீட்டுக்கு அந்த அளவுக்கு கார் போதும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி சொல்றாரு. இப்போ வந்து லாஸ்ட் போடுறதுக்கு ஏற்பாடு பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறாரு. நான் நெக்ஸ்ட் சொல்லி
Okay. So good morning, friends and colleagues. I deemed as a pleasure to join in this group for discussing an important area. This is an area which is more related to the educational psychology. When we say educational psychology, it's more related to everybody as a teacher. I preferred, at the outset, I thank the organizers, the chairman, the authorities, the chairman, secretary, CEO, principal, Dr. Karandraj, and all his team members are having organized an important training program for especially for the young professionals who would organize themselves in this kind of a teaching activity. And I appreciate all of you as participants, as learners in this kind of important training activity, which I am supposed and I am confident that it would mold your behavioral patterns, especially needed for professional, a kind of an academic. I preferred this topic because this area deserves much recognition by everybody who are in the teaching profession. As the title denotes, attitude decides the altitude. So the altitude is the degree of achievement or accomplishment in your career. The degree of attitude, the degree of positive attitude defines or determines the accomplishment levels. So that is the theme behind it. So in order to theorize this title, I have very carefully prepared a set of slides which provide you the needed content, maybe in a simple and capsule form. And if you could understand the meaning behind each of this area, probably you would be the winner on this. Next slide.
Slideshow.
And the scope of this area, this topic. Why attitude is important in educational accomplishments? A good attitude opens the door to high achievement. Higher the attitude or higher the positive attitude, you'll be getting the higher level of achievement. And there's a relationship between positive attitude and achievement. It is mutual and bi-directional. And I could peruse so much of literature. There's an empirical evidence available for this statement. If you are interested, you may kindly go through some of the studies dealing with attitude in relation to the achievements. It may be in education field or in any field. The attitude and achievement, they have a correlation, and it has been empirically tested, verified, and it's the generalization. I mean, it is the generalization that the relationship always exists between a positive attitude and achievement. Then success or failure is caused more by mental attitudes than by mental capacities. So it was given by Walter Scott. Probably you may be knowing, a great psychologist, Walter Scott. Success or failure is caused more by mental attitudes than by mental capacities. It is not simply by, it's not the achievement or the accomplishment is simply by mental capacities alone. You may have the accumulated knowledge, skill, and everything. But when you don't acquire the attitudinal levels that are required for an academic, probably your success rate may get deteriorated and the failure may creep in. So that's why you be conscious of the mental attitude. Don't be compromised with your knowledge and skill alone. What's the kind of attitudinal level that has been acquired over a period of time? So you need to introspect all the time. And stimulating young people towards acquisition of attitudes that are individually, socially desirable is the challenge posed to a teacher. So this is a very important area, very important point, and I need to focus on it. We are not just preparing our graduates for an employable position, though it is basically required to produce employable graduates. What sort of a socially desirable or socially responsible graduates you are producing? You need to ask oneself, because many times we fail in this kind of an activity. We talk much about the social obligation, the social responsibilities, everything. And kindly mind it that you are preparing or you are evolving a kind of a generation, not simply students. You are responsible to evolve a kind of a generation that will take care of the society over a long period of time. So probably if you work for an institution, maybe a different kind of institutions for a period of say 30 to 35 years, or even 25 to 30 years. It is to be simply accepted that you are producing at least a minimum of 2 generations. So that's what I felt over a period of my career time. At least a minimum of 2 generations, you are responsible to evolve socially desirable or socially responsible graduates. So probably if you don't properly understand this concept, whatever may be the graduates we produce or we evolve over a period of time, that sort of graduates may not serve the society as such. Next. And I am just cautioning you people that negative attitude limits performance, reduces motivation, and inhibits learning. And similar is the case. Negative attitude discourage, limit, and even prevent learning. And these two negative picture, one has to be very much conscious and cautious, because we cannot just take it in a way, just like that. When we start the career, identify everything, and if it corroborates with your thinking levels, it's okay. Or else, if you put it in a different way, your attitude levels differ with reference to institution, with reference to your course program, with reference to the particular paper which you are handling, with reference to the students, with reference to the work environment, with reference to the work ethics. So probably all this will create some kind of a negative attitude in oneself, and probably that should not happen. So my kind request to everybody is to see that sort of a negative attitude should not happen, because it has its own ill effects. Can you try to understand the ill effects? These ill effects will simply mar the quality of education, the quality of students which you produce over a period of time. And of course, it may not help you to build the institution. So as an academic, you are supposed to be an institution builder. Next slide, please. Next slide. These are all the multifunctions of an academic. I have very carefully selected this word, academic. I have not simply added the word teacher in this list, because the teacher, it's a multi-role, an all-inclusive concept. Teachers are a multi-concept. I can say all-inclusive concept. When you are a right type of teacher, you are the noble person. And your teaching is the noblest profession. It is what we assume. Here, as an academic or as a teacher, you have to play a multi-role, multi-functions. As a mentor, counselor, guide, HR personnel. It is the trainer. So, wherever the mentoring occurs, probably your students will be better off. Wherever you counsel them properly, even starting from the initial stage, maybe the first year, first semester onwards, till they complete their program, maybe 4 years or 4.5 years program, counseling, then guide at every point of time. They should feel that here is a person as a guide available for me. So exploring the possibilities to achieve in my career. That's sort of a thinking you have to produce. And HR personnel, it is the trainer. And you should bend them, you should adequately provide them that they are undergoing a kind of a training activity. It's not simply a classroom activity, it's a training activity. Next. Then I am posing this question specifically because how have you performed over a period of time? So maybe I assume that this group consists of persons with different kinds of experience, various kinds of exposures, maybe 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years and beyond. So what is that you have performed with reference to the teaching activity, with reference to research activities, with reference to HR activities? All this kind of introspection, you have to take up introspection. Probably, at this stage, you may take up a SWOT analysis also. I think you are all familiar with the SWOT analysis, SWOT. Strengths, weakness, opportunities, the threats. It is SWOT, SWOC. Strength, weakness, opportunities, challenges. So, it may be taken as a self-directed learning activity. So probably, maybe with reference to the like-minded group of students, if you could take up this kind of a self-directed learning activity, You may identify them. What sort of a performance you have undertaken over a period of time. So this over a period of time means in different institutions or maybe in the same institutions, maybe the different period of time, what sort of a performance you have taken. So probably that may spell out something for your improvement. Next slide, please. So to conceptually clarify, so probably at least some percentage of the trainees might have got some kind of a perfect understanding of what these concepts say. So I have very purposefully included this slide because many people do not exactly understand what is it. So just to theorize, what is it and what would be the implications of these concepts? So probably one has to get it clarified. Next slide, please. So I have given for each of the terms a simple definition. A simple definition so that you will get aware of what it is. And this is basically needed. So education is the production of desirable changes in human behavior. All the time we use this term, education. Education is the production of desirable changes in human behavior. What does it mean? You have to produce desirable changes. The human behavior means the three dimensions: knowledge, skill, and attitude. And if you have not produced the desirable changes in an individual, it's very, very important to say that you have not provided the needed education. Hope you follow me. If you have not produced the desirable changes in knowledge, skill, and attitude, of course, you have not provided the needed education. The teaching is the process of providing situations in which learning takes place. As an academic, as a teacher, you used to provide the needed situation so that the adequate learning takes place. You cannot or you do not bother about anything or anybody. And here you are the person with the mastery over the subject. So very often we used to say, it is not simply filling up the bucket. It is not simply filling up the bucket, or it is not simply loading or unloading the details. It is lighting a lamp. Try to understand, it is lighting a lamp. The darkness will simply go off. If you provide the needed teaching initiative, the darkness in one's mind will simply go off. Then learning is the process of progressive behavior adaptation. Kindly note down the spelling. It is not adaptation, adaptation, ADA. How well the individual adapts to the various issues so that he or she acquires the progressive behavior. So to that level, you have to provide the learning capabilities. Next. In learning situation, it's a condition or environment in which all the elements necessary for promoting learning are present. I have listed out some 5 elements: instructor, learner, subject matter, teaching material, and physical facilities. Which one is the 4 element here? Learner. Learner is the key element. Learner is the central element. And you plot all these elements, all the other 4 elements in different corners. And there will be reciprocation between these elements. Learner to instructor, learner to subject matter, learner to teaching material, then learner to physical facilities. And if this interaction takes place so adequately, probably the perfect learning situation you have created. Assume maybe in your classroom or maybe your teaching activity, who is the learner? And as instructor, have you preferred the right type of subject matter? Have you chosen the right type of teaching material? And is there adequate physical facilities available so that the learner can acquire the learning situation? Then next slide. Next slide. Learning experience. It's a very important topic. I'll read out the contents. Learning experience, the mental and or physical reaction one makes through seeing, hearing, or doing the things to be learned, through which one gains meanings and understandings of the materials to be learned. Just a minute, please. So this is a very important concept. As a teacher, you have to be very much conscious of this concept. Just to explain, conceptually clarify, one has to, as a learner, one has to mentally and physically react. It's not the simple physical presence alone. He or she has to mentally reflect what is the subject learned and engage more number of senses. So there are 5 senses: seeing, hearing, doing, touching, tasting, everything. And you have to engage more number of senses. And finally, the output, the product, is that the right type of learning may take place when there's a right type of understanding. So I'd like to clarify with one example. Learner A and learner B. There are 2 types of learners, or 2 types of learning groups, A and B. Learner A attends a particular session with undivided learning. He or she reflects to the content. What you are preaching or what you are teaching, he reflects to the content. And with a good amount of attention, he or she engages more number of senses and finally acquires the right type of content. He or she understands the material. So probably relating to the field conditions, relating to the updates, developments, the updated developments, everything. So here the learner A is very much confident of getting the right type of output or product of this kind of a learning activity. Whereas C, the learner B, the another group or another individual, he or she attends the session with undivided attention. Very casually, probably physically he or she may present, but mentally, he or she is not reacting to the content. And very casually way of learning. So probably he or she doesn't corroborate the materials learned with the field activities. So it may be in any field, maybe biomedical engineering or electronics, or electrical engineering, or civil engineering, whatever may be the area. But unless otherwise, he or she relates to the content to the field conditions. Probably there could not be any kind of a learning. So that's how this assumes so much of learning. And the teacher, as an important person, as an instructor, he or she should see that this learning experience is properly provided to the learners. And the learners should get this kind of a learning experience. And often I used to appreciate this kind of a concept. And I have provided to many number of my students that what sort of a learning experience would has occurred after attending a session. Probably he or she is the person to certify that you have done you have done the task so adequately, so perfectly. Yeah, next slide. So training. And you have to be trainer. It is always trainer-trainee relationship. It's not simply the teacher-taught relationship. It is trainer-trainee relationship. Training is a systematic process of changing the individual's behavior. The three major components: knowledge, skill, and attitude, and motivation to improve performance. It is task-oriented, it is job-oriented. So there's always a kind of a difference between teaching and training. Teaching and training. Teaching may be a kind of a simple educational activity, but whereas training is more job-oriented, task-oriented. Here comes the difference. You have to be a trainer. Next. Communication. I have purposefully added this concept. And as I was telling, it has to be trainer-trainee relationship. Communicator-communicating relationship. Here comes the communicator-communicating relationship. You are a communicator as a teacher, as an academic, you are a communicator. Then communication. Communicator-communicating relationship. All the receivers are supposed to be the communicators. And the communication is the process by which two or more people exchange facts, feelings, or impressions in ways that each gains a common understanding of the meaning, intent. Intent is the purpose and use of messages. Actually, when there is no proper understanding of the content, relevant to the purpose, and the materials occurred through this communication process is not properly used, it's not properly or adequately used, probably communication has not taken place. So related to this concept, there are 6 elements: communicator, message, channel, treatment, audience response. So it's very important area, but has to be very conscious of this definition, a simple definition, plus all these 6 elements. Actually, it requires one full week to explore these concepts. As a communicator, you have to be very much adequately have the knowledge, skill, interest in your subject matter. You have to identify your audience. Message is the treatment of the content. Whatever may be the information, the treated information is message. Then communicator, message, treatment, channels. Container and content. Content is your subject matter. Container is the channel. Through what channel you are passing your message to the intended audience. Container and content. And it has to corroborate. It must have some kind of a relationship. Container and content. Then audience, spell out your audience, identify their strengths, weaknesses. So probably at some point of time, you'll be exploring the nature of audience. Okay? Then audience response. It's not simply the positive response. It's not simply the positive response alone, but there are different kinds of responses. So understanding versus knowledge. Which one is preferred? Understand. Which one is preferred? Understand. It's not simply understanding, a functional understanding. I can say functional understanding of the concept. And it is always not acceptance alone. There can be rejection. Acceptance versus rejection. Then remembering versus forgetting. There's every possibility for forgetting the message. Remembering versus forgetting. Then mental or physical action. Mental acceptance. That is the first stage. Then action is the adoption. They have to adapt it. Then right versus wrong. Don't assume that it's always a kind of a right response. There can be a wrong response also. So probably this audience response, you have to be very much conscious of audience response. And when you deal with students, it may be somewhat easy to assess all this audience response. When you deal with the entrepreneurs, the so-called entrepreneurs, or the field level workers, think of the field level workers, probably you have to work out very carefully and see that this kind of a communication, the right type of communication takes place. Communicator, communicating. This relationship exists. Communicator, communicating. Trainer, training. Not only the teacher-taught relationship, all these relationships exist. So probably, so you may endorse my views. To understand all these concepts, probably your attitude speaks much. Your attitude should speak much. Okay. Then a simple definition. There are good many number of definitions available. A simple definition, I have preferred this simple definition. Attitude is the mental and the neural state of readiness shaped through experience or dynamic influence upon the individual's response to situations and objects. It is the mental and neural state of readiness. What is more important as far as this definition is concerned? Through experience, it is said your attitude shaped through experience or an influence to the individual for different kind of situations and objects. And related to this, hopefully, at least some of you may have some idea about another concept, perception. Perception, it is more related. Perception. Perception is the expressed opinion towards a particular object. That's a simple definition. So all these are all very much related to educational psychology. Perception is the expressed opinion towards a particular object. So more related to attitude. Attitude towards what? If you ask this question, attitude towards what? Attitude towards your students, attitude towards your institution, attitude towards the core curriculum itself, and attitude towards the work ethics. Isn't it? So like that, you may define it. And probably each one of these may exert some kind of an influence over a period of time. And that is the attitudinal setting. By God's grace, if you could work so efficiently in a right type of institution, probably you are the right person having the right type of attitude. It's simple, isn't it? It's very simple. And to put it otherwise, probably the negative or inadequate attitude or ineffective attitude they have. So that's why it's all individual based. I can say it's all individual based. And if the individual is so shrewd, maybe from the day one onwards, if the individual is so shrewd to acquire different kind of exposures and experiences, learning from the experience of others, learning from other issues, other situations, probably you may set your attitude so adequately. And from that point onwards, you may get a takeoff. You may get a takeoff. So probably the subsequent slides I shall explain it more. Yeah, next. So factors influencing the development of attitudes. First one, maturation. When you grow by age, attitude changes, isn't it? Attitude changes. Even the attitude towards your parent. Isn't it? So attitude towards your own education system. Attitude towards the community or society as a whole. So probably at different age levels. So probably at child level, just apply it. Apply all those points which I have provided to you. At child level, then at adolescent level, at adult level. So probably as elders, your attitude differs. Then physical factors, maybe more specifically health factors. There's always the behavioral disturbances occur at every point of time. So physical factors, maybe due to malnutrition, some of the chronic diseases. At some point of time, some kind of an accident may happen, mentally, physically. Your behavioral disturbances. Then home influence. Issues in a home or family environment. So probably this may be a contributing factor for developing a positive or negative attitude amongst the individuals. So probably the next point, social environment, heredity and environment. Heredity and environment contributes to attitudinal changes. So when the former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi assumed the charge of Prime Ministership of this great country, there was a lot of debate going on, which contributed for this aeroplane pilot to occupy the position of Prime Minister of this great country. Many people argued for and against heredity and environment. It may be a generalization that 50-50. 50-50 or 60-40 or 40-60. Anything, in any combination it may happen. But equally, I can say equally, the heredity and environment plays its own role to shape up the attitude of an individual. So social contacts, here we need to consider the social contacts with the friends, neighbors, peer groups, society play an influencing role. So probably as counselor, that's what I told, as a role one has to play as counselor. You may concentrate more on this kind of an issue, home and social. Home influences social environment. So we cannot altogether change anything overnight, but there can be a kind of initiation at your level. So if your attitude is set so positively, probably you may consider this kind of influencing factors. Then media, all kind of media. Now the familiar channels, TV channels, newspapers, movies, the present one, social media, all this provide diversions. Their active time is lost, manpower wasted, loss of productivity. Well, the serials are live chats of TV channels, biased views of newspapers, negative side of life that is depicted through movies, then the social media, FB, Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. Though it's all to be appreciated that the electronic media has come very much handy for our advancements, but they have their own negative effects. So probably at some point of time, we need to bother much about it, ponder over the ill effects of the media, then as a teacher. So be a model to others. So it may look like a theory, a theoretical proposition, but that's what I have learned from my students over a period of my 35 plus years of service. Still, I remember the days as assistant professor during 1979-89. During 79-89, I was in my in my early career level as assistant professor, and still I consider that period, 79-89, is a golden period in my life, golden period in my career. Now I could produce maybe 2-3 generations of students, maybe thousands of students at UG level, PG level, PhD level. But I deem it as a golden period in my life. Many of the AAS and IPS officers, group one officers of the Tamilnadu government across the country, I can see all my students performing very excellent in their career as bankers, as teachers of the great reputation in my university. So all this I can feel proud that I could play my role as a teacher, be a model to others. In my career, I could identify a great person who is no more, Dr. Jairaj, Dr. Solai Jairaj as the Vice Chancellor. He was my mentor, he was my teacher, he was my mentor, he was my counselor. Then occupying very many positions like Registrar and Vice Chancellor of TNAU. Till date, I couldn't find out a great person like him. And he used to speak very fluently in Tamil and English. Whenever he interacts with the researcher, and he explores all the possibilities across the discipline. He actually belongs to the entomology, agricultural entomology, but across the discipline, irrespective subject, he used to talk much about it. Then whenever he is expected to deal with farmers or entrepreneurs, agro-entrepreneurs, the tone is totally different. And I was brought up with him. I can frankly and proudly say that I was brought up with him. And as a person, he could do so much, something great to the institution. And another great personality, one Mr. D.K. Oza, a former AAS officer, he was the Vice Chancellor. He was once the Chief Electoral Officer in India government. He was the Vice Chancellor of Gandhigram Rural University, a strict Gandhian, 100% Gandhian, explains everything in terms of Gandhian principles. Though we have different interpretations of Gandhian philosophies, Gandhian principles. And there's a debate also, is there a kind of a relevancy to adopt Gandhian philosophies or Gandhian? But he is an adamant preacher of Gandhian philosophies. So such is a great person which I could see in my life, and probably you may set your own mentors, your own great personalities to emulate. So that's what when you attitude set your ideas, probably you may derive some kind of a moral support, a great support, moral support from persons like him. Then attitudinal studies for academics and students. So this I propose. Probably this area needs a kind of rigorous thinking. So it's purely research oriented. And if you search out any kind of a educational tool, probably this one area requires so much of importance. Attitudinal skills. There are attitudinal skills towards a particular object is available, but it is more rigorous. You need to follow rigorous procedures. But I would like to propose a simple idea. You may take it up as a litmus test, a kind of a litmus test, simple litmus test to test yourself and as well as your own clients. Your clients are students. So that's what I have given in this slide. Quick service, it will be pure. Or it can serve as a small group study. Small group study. So just to put it in a very simple way. So probably for academics, you may form your own groups. And this study, attitude towards institutional setting, so when I say institutional setting, it is the administration, institutions administration, then probably the funding support from external agencies, then vision of the institution, then different kinds of academic programs originated from the particular institution. Then fellow colleagues, your own fellow colleagues. Then for students also, as I was telling, there's the possibility for taking up a SWOT analysis. This is also a possibility. Attitude towards institutional setting, then academic programs. Is there any special programs? Nowadays, every institution has some autonomy to generate some special programs. Then extracurricular, co-curricular activities. The hostel facilities are available. Then faculty strength or faculty standards. Then students are very much conscious of this placement avenues. So what I propose, whoever may be the audience, it may be academic group or students group. It's a simple study one may aspire to develop. You may organize some 20 to 30, identify 20 to 30 statements. These statements may contain positive views and negative views. Okay? 20 to 30 statements in which there can be positive and negative statements. And you can expect response in a continuum. It can be dichotomous response, agree or disagree. Or it can be 3-point continuum or 5-point continuum. Agree, neutral, disagree. It can be 5-point continuum. Mostly agree, neutral, then less disagree, least agree. Like that, there can be 5-point continuum. So preferably, this dichotomous response are 3-point continuum. Putting in 3-point continuums may be somewhat easy to operate. Then for the positive response, you can give scores. Maybe if it is 3-point continuum, 1 to 3, or for positive statement, it is 3 to 1. Like that. For negative statement, it may be 1 to 3 like that. So work out the total score. Then work out the mean with the help of standard deviation, mean and standard deviation. You may classify as low, medium, high. Low altitude groups, medium altitude groups, high altitude groups. It's possible. And probably it may serve as a basic information about the attitudinal setting of your own clientele group or your own fellow colleagues. Okay. Then strategies for building positive attitudes. This is more important. It is practically possible. It is practically possible to adapt these strategies. So probably I may say that this is the time-tested strategies. Simple and effective. The first one is look for opportunities to praise your students' efforts. So it's a kind of recognizing the students, a simple recognition. Many times, knowingly or unknowingly, or consciously or unconsciously, we are doing it. But to make it a point to recognize them, maybe in a group of students, maybe in a classroom condition, or maybe with the authorities of the institution. Isn't it? So there's a possibility to recognize them. So probably controller of examination may also endorse. Look for opportunities to prize. Then encourage your students to look upon their education, their jobs. This is more important. When we were students, I am just recollecting my own student days. When we were students, at third year, we used to designate ourselves as pre-professional students or pre-final year students. Then at the fourth year level, and some of us would sign in greenings. So to that level, we have identified ourselves and recognized ourselves that the course what we undergo is more job oriented. It's a kind of a pre-service. Don't simply go with the intention that it's only a kind of a teaching activity. It's only a kind of teaching activity and we are just producing graduates. It is a pre-service training. What they undergo over a period of 4 years as a kind of a pre-service training. So you must emphasize that they are undergoing some kind of a foundation. They should consider that they are building the foundation for their futures. So then only their attitudinally they may be better off. Then encourage your students to develop an interest in what they are learning. Higher the learning, higher will be the interest. Higher the interest, higher will be the learning. It's all vice versa. If an individual student or a group of students, when they learn with every kind of interest, probably their attitude towards their own subject, probably it may be a simple project work, they may take up the project work with more of interest. And the literature citations must be encouraged. So they should develop more reading habits. It's not simply take up the Google search or simply the cut and paste. They should refer original journals. They should read so many books. You should encourage them to develop such a kind of an interest. Then give your students positive reinforcement for desired behavior and attitudes. This is also more important. Reinforcement kind of learning will always change the behavioral setting. Reinforcement or the repetitive learning. So if a group of students, any individual or group of students feel that their learning is inadequate, probably you may indulge in such a kind of a reinforcement learning. They must provide, you must provide the reinforcement to the particular concepts or particular issues. It may work well with particular reference to the skill teaching. So many times, many of the companies ask for the skill sets. The skill sets possessed by an individual. So identify the gaps, identify the lacunae in the individual, and provide this kind of a reinforcement. Then set up your reward system for accomplishing short-term, long-term goals. So probably it may work well when you provide certificates, some kind of awards, medals, like that. So probably it may look very simple, but you may observe that the students who could get such a kind of recognition, so probably they may be a kind of a model to others. So how well they have performed and how well their performance have been rewarded. The next, so probably let your students see how you organize yourself. So they must also aware of their lesson plans which you prepared. So what is the teaching plan of work? Plan of work? A teaching plan of work? You must be very thorough. As a teacher, you must be thorough and expose your students that these are the requirements. And the plan of work is an outline of activities so arranged as to enable efficient execution of entire program. It's a very simple definition. This works good for everything, anything and everything. Even for implementing a government program. So I used to encourage the IAS professionals to think of this kind of a plan of work. Plan of work is an outline of activities so arranged as to enable efficient execution of entire program. And it should answer to 5 W's on knowledge. What is it? 5 W's on knowledge. What to do, when to do, where to do, why to do, by whom it is to be done, how it is to be done. And if you are very much thorough with this kind of a plan of teaching plan of work, probably you may face the students very confidently. And the students under your guidance will always seek your guidance to fill up the gaps in their learning activity. Then show your students how you schedule your time and activities. So it is simply the time management. So it is always the time management who has to explore. So starting the class in time, ending the class in time. So probably at periodical intervals, reviewing your educational activity with reference to the learning acquired by the individuals, the classroom. So probably, so that time management, from the initial stage onwards, you may teach your students for adequate planning of the time. Then point out to your students how you schedule your time and activities. Point out to your student that everyone is, everyone is required to do certain part of tasks. And we should encourage. Yeah. 8 points. Point out also, everyone is required to do certain part of tasks. It is engaging the students for active learning. Active learning. I was telling to you, learning experience. Isn't it? That's how you should treat them as learner A, the category of learner A. And active learning, participative learning, you should provide them the opportunities for active learning and participative learning. Then impress upon your students that they are in control of what they do. So it is acquiring the mastery over the subject. They must have a knowledge base, a skill set, and they must recognize themselves as pioneers in the particular field of specialty. They are the masters. They are the masters. So I have provided you gist of information. Before I thank you, I have provided you the gist of information required for developing a positive attitude. As a teacher, as an academic, you should view it so positively so that your attitude and setting will be a different one hereafterwards. Then also, with reference to the student community, there's a possibility that they must assume that they are in a position to acquire the knowledge, skill and attitude so that they develop it so positively. And as I was mentioning in one of the slides, success or failure is caused more by mental attitudes than by mental capacities. So it's a statement by Walter Scott, a great psychologist. It's not simply acquiring the knowledge and skill. It's more of attitudinal change or the attitudinal setting. Try to be value-based, I often insist. To all my students, to all my colleagues, be value-based. And if you are more value-based, probably you can feel proud that you are in the process of evolving a kind of a positively and a positive attitudinally set generations. And hope you know the case of cat and lion. You know the case of cat and lion? Cat and lion. Both are from the same family. You know the zoological classification, if you are very much interested, if you could identify the family of cat and lion, it is the same family, Felidae, F-E-L-I-D-A, same family. The cat and lion are from the same family, but behaviorally, attitudinally, they are different. So lion is the king of beasts. Cat is the pet animal, domesticated, and it is the pet animal. Want to be lion or cat? Decision is yours. And here comes the importance of attitudinal setting by every individual. In Tamil, there's a couplet from Thirukkural. Kana muyalaitha ambiril, yanai padaitha vel yadal inidu. காண முயலைத அன்பினில் யானை பிழைத்த வேல் ஏந்தல் இனிது. Those who are familiar with Tirukural may adequately translate it and share it with others. Those who are not familiar with Tirukural, I can very simply say that if you are hunting for elephant, don't be satisfied with hunting your rabbit. And your role is something great. Your attitude is something, your attitude has to be something different. Your attitude has to be in a way that is positively sexual. Probably that sort of a change, should occur at some point of time, so that you can be a great contributor to the education system and also to the student community. And kindly be confident that you are responsible to evolve a new generation. So probably this day is a great day for me to talk with you and to participate in this activity. And thank you for all the organizers and the team members. Thank you very much.
Definitely, we will be cancer, and we promise that we will be contributing for the society, the student community, the research community. I would like to thank you for your particular knowledge on the importance and the role of the activity of the area. Dear participants, now the session is open for the question session. You can post the questions related to this session to the speaker in the chat box.
Or directly they can ask the question.
You can
Unmute
yourself and you can ask the question after this.
As I said, we need to have a mentor like Professor Dr.R.Ganesan. So we need to experience the experiences of senior professors and academicians. In this way, we can strengthen our academic process. As Professor said, we have corporate having corporate social responsibility. As academician, as a student, we have a social responsibility. So we need to know some of the best practices happened. The professors, like our chief guest, also in the initial day, the inauguration day, as we discussed, the guest speakers, it's framed with the best practices, experiences of more than 100-year-old or 75-year-old institutions. Tamilnadu Agricultural University, NAC, NIT, PhD, Amita University, and other Shivnadar University, they have their own best practices. So as an academician, we must follow the best practices happening in mixed planning. We must follow the best practices happening in the institution. So that's why we have requested each and one of the important professors to communicate with the new generation faculty members. So we need to learn many new things. We have a social responsibility. That's why one more Tamil we can say karkai nandre pichai pikinam karkai nandre. So these two things we need to know the best practices, experience of the senior professors like Professor Dr.R.Ganesan. So we are really thankful to So we have really enjoyed your session, Professor, and we are fortunate to have your presence at Dr.NGPIT Institute of Technology, and we are honored to have your presence at Dr.NGPIT. Thank you very much, and I request all the participants to have an interaction with the chief guest today, so that we can get new insight on teaching learning practices. In chat level. Chat box.
Okay, you may interact and you may provide the feedback, whether it is as per your requirement or as per your instance of learning something extra or anything
Chat box.
you would like to provide the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can wind up this.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
At this juncture, on behalf of the Agri committee, I would like to thank our management for their support. I enter my sincere gratitude to the session chair, Dr.R.Ganesan, for sharing his valuable knowledge. I wish to thank our principal for his guidance. I wish to thank our department for his support. I wish to thank the directors, deans, head of various departments, and my dear participants for being with us. Thank you once again. Thank you all. Dear participants, the feedback link has been posted to the chat box. Please fill the feedback of the session and please join back for the post-plan session.